Sergio Perez's British Grand Prix was an utter disaster. There's no other way of spinning it. A trip to the gravel in Q1 brought out the red flag, ending his qualifying and putting him to the back of the grid for the start of Sunday's race. In a fast car that was expected to suit the Silverstone circuit, he was expected to make decent headway through the pack, but failed to do so and was relegated to Max Verstappen's tyre strategy test piece as the rain started coming down. It is the sixth bad result in a row for Perez, and despite a 2-year contract that is still hot out of the printer, the pressure on his job is mounting. The performance clauses in that new contract were leaked during the British Grand Prix, and now the Mexican driver is at serious risk of losing his seat mid-season. Today, I'll get you up to date on it all, so don't go anywhere. The stats that followed Sergio Perez's 17th place finish at the British Grand Prix don't make pretty reading. Logan Sargent has outqualified Perez a total of 6 times now. Yuki Tsunoda has more Q3 appearances than Checo in the last 6 races. Nico Hülkenberg has scored more points in the last 2 races than Perez has in the last 6. Lance Stroll has matched Perez's points haul in that time as well. And during those 6 races, Max Verstappen has outscored his teammate by 97 points. The scale of Checo's slump cannot be ignored. Yet, in Silverstone, there were mitigating factors. His trip to the gravel on a drying track in Q1 was unfortunate, but definitely his own fault. Daniel Ricciardo very nearly did the exact same thing right behind Checo though. Mistakes do happen, and spinning on a drying track is very easy to do. And if he wasn't in the run of poor results that he is, the spin would have been completely overlooked, but the context makes it look bad. Even from the back of the grid though, the RB20 had the speed to get a points finish. Replacement power parts would send Perez to the pit lane for the race start, and he started to make progress. However, the Haas of Kevin Magnussen caused him some serious problems. He was stuck there for an age until the Danish driver managed to pass Daniel Ricciardo, putting Perez behind the Australian driver instead. Checo made short work of the V-Carb car and looked to be making moves, but on lap 20, as the rain started, Red Bull decided to roll the dice with his race. Checo pitted for intermediate tyres during the light drizzle, but it turned out to be a terrible choice. Ferrari did make the same mistake with Charles Leclerc though. Both drivers were on the wrong tyre for 8 laps until the leaders pitted on lap 28 for intermediates. Any chance that Checo had of recovering to a points finish was completely ruined by those 8 laps on intermediates, and he eventually finished a full 2 laps down from the eventual winner, Lewis Hamilton. It was a disastrous result, which could have been avoided. What made it even worse was the news that broke over the weekend regarding his contract situation. Before the British Grand Prix, Red Bull had explicitly communicated to Perez the need for a significant uptick in performance to secure his seat. With upcoming races in Hungary and Belgium before the summer break, Perez is under pressure to demonstrate substantial improvement. The urgency is compounded by the competitive tension from McLaren, who are coming for Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship, and the Mercedes drivers, who are closely trailing and ready to overtake Sergio Perez's position in the drivers' standings. If Perez doesn't improve before the summer break, then Red Bull are in a position to terminate his contract due to the performance clauses included in it. These clauses include not being more than 100 points behind Max Verstappen after the Belgian Grand Prix, with another understood to dictate that it cannot be more than 5 places behind Verstappen in the standings. Perez currently sits 137 points behind Verstappen and exactly 5 places behind his teammate. Perez last finished ahead of a Mercedes 7 races ago in Miami, meaning the odds of him staying ahead of either of them by the summer break is incredibly slim. It's entirely possible that after the Belgian Grand Prix, that final race before the summer break, he'll be 7 places behind his teammate in the championship standings and have over 150 points less to his name. Performance clauses in contracts are nothing new in Formula 1. If either party in the contract underperforms, then the other party is able to terminate the contract. They protect the team from a poorly performing driver, and they can protect the driver from a poorly performing car. The performance criteria specified in Perez's contract and the escalating challenges from rivals McLaren, Ferrari and Mercedes have put Red Bull in a position to demand high performances from both of their drivers. If Perez fails to close the substantial gap or improve his standings, Red Bull might look at replacements. Team boss Christian Horner has been a long-time supporter of Perez and is believed to have been the one to get the Mexican's recent contract extension in place. but even he had to admit after the race at Silverstone that his driver's performances were becoming a problem. He knows it's unsustainable to not be scoring points, Horner said. We have to be scoring points in that car, and he knows that. He knows his role and his target, so nobody's more eager than Checo to find his form again. When asked about Perez's qualifying error, Red Bull's Dr. Helmut Marko was surprisingly soft on the driver, saying, "You can use the excuse that he was the first on the slick tyres. The car is unpredictable, but it certainly doesn't help him get out of the crisis." However, Marko did go on to say that Checo's performances were a problem that needed solving, and mentioned those performance clauses. Since he got the new contract, there has been a few not-so-good races. Of course, it's designed for performance, and no one is exempt from that. Considering Sergio Perez's form compared to the other 7 drivers who are battling for podiums at the moment, it is safe to assume that after the checkered flag falls in Belgium, he'll be far enough behind Verstappen for Red Bull to cancel his contract based on the performance clauses it contains. If you look at Red Bull's 2 most recent firings, that of Pierre Gasly and then Alex Albon, neither were performing as badly as Perez. Albon was let go at the end of 2020 after finishing 4 places and 109 points behind Verstappen after an entire season. Pierre Gasly was demoted out of a Red Bull seat after 12 rounds in 2019. At the time, he was 3 places and 93 points behind Verstappen. We're 12 rounds into the 2024 season at the moment, and Perez is performing far worse than Gasly was in 2019 relative to Verstappen. Of course, the question that will be on everyone's mind is who will replace him. It was revealed over the Silverstone weekend that Liam Lawson is scheduled to test a Red Bull F1 car at the track this week, putting him in the running for taking Sergio Perez's seat during the 4-week summer break. Of course, there are also the VCARB drivers. Daniel Ricciardo was brought back to Formula 1 by the Red Bull team, with the hope he would refine the performance levels he showed for Red Bull over half a decade ago. Yuki Tsunoda has dominated his teammate in the head-to-head though, outqualifying Ricciardo 9 times in 12 races and outscoring him 20 points to 11. With Ricciardo not living up to the expectations Christian Horner had of him, and Tsunoda seemingly out of favour with the team boss, Liam Lawson has appeared as the favourite to gain a race seat mid-season. Lawson is scheduled to drive the RB20 at Red Bull's filming day at Silverstone on Thursday. Teams are not allowed to run private tests on their current cars except on 2 filming days, which cannot total more than 200 kilometers of running per day. It is rare but not unheard of for a reserve driver to get a run during one of these tests, and Red Bull putting Lawson in is proof that they want to know how he handles their current F1 car. 12 months ago, following the British Grand Prix, Red Bull used a Pirelli tyre test to look at Ricciardo's potential in last year's RB19. His performance that day was enough to convince the squad to draft him in as a replacement for Nick de Vries, who had struggled to make an impression at AlphaTauri. The similarities with this situation are very hard to miss. Lawson hugely impressed during his 5 outings at AlphaTauri last season, which included a 9th place finish at the Singapore Grand Prix after Ricciardo injured his hand in a crash in the Netherlands. That form saw him emerge as a prime candidate to replace Ricciardo later this year, if the team felt it needed to shake things up. But with Ricciardo showing improved form in recent races that could secure his place for now, a Lawson move to Red Bull could be a way of keeping the New Zealander in the family, amid talk that he could contractually be free at the end of the year if he does not secure a race seat with the energy drinks giant for 2025. No one would deny that Sergio Perez has been a great servant for Red Bull, and at times has put in performances worthy of the quality of the car that Red Bull have produced in recent years. However, his current performance levels risk Red Bull losing the Constructors' Championship, and that is something that the team cannot accept. The next 2 races are the most important of Checo's life because anything short of perfection could cost him his F1 career. Do you think Checo is still worthy of the Red Bull seat, or is the summer break the right time for Red Bull to cancel his contract? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.